you want more Guardians talk, make sure you go check out the Ultimate Guardian Show with Bull and Zach this morning. If you want more Guardians talk later tonight, you got to turn on Tom Hamilton and Jim Rosenhaus as the call for the Guardians Reds tonight. Jim, how you doing today? Thanks for joining us here on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show.
Rosie, how you doing?
Did you just call Barry Bonds a Martian?
I said his head looked like a Martian.
Oh, yeah. That is true.
Jim, tell him that Barry Bonds didn't take no steroids.
What? Excuse me?
Tell them that Barry Bonds was not on steroids.
Yes,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. This must not be working properly.
We broke it up.
The stream froze again on you, Ty.
Hey, Jim, we were just talking about Josh Naylor and the fact that even though he's been in this terrible slump, he still has 17 ribbies in his last 30 games, which is hard to believe because his batting average has been so poor during that time. But I don't know if you heard it, but we were talking about his exit velocity the last week has been really good. I think he's due to break out of it here any day now. You confident in that?
Absolutely. And that's the key for him. And I think for anybody who puts together good seasons RBI-wise, they'll go through some stretches where maybe the base hits are few and far between, but somehow you look up and there's RBIs there because when there's someone in scoring position or getting him in, whether it's a sac fly or the other day, just a couple of flares to the opposite field for him drove in runs. So I don't think anybody's really concerned. And the beauty of it is once he turns it around and starts to get hot again, he'll be able to carry the team for a little bit.
No doubt.
Jim, when you look at this team, this Guardians team last year was one of the worst hitting teams as far as home runs go. And this year,
with the home runs.
Excuse me. This is my question. Thank you very much. Now they sit in the top half of the league. What do you think has gone into helping them become this power-hitting baseball club?
Can I just say, your shirt exemplifies what just happened there. How firm is their friendship there?
Good question.
All right,
they questioned you right out of the chute. That's not right.
You got to know the backstory here. Tyvus knows nothing about baseball.
Whoa! Let's stop that.
And we did our preseason bold predictions, and Bull and I were way off. He said Rocchio was going to be an all-star. At least mine wasn't that bad.
Mine was
terrible.
terrible.
I said Tanner Bybee was going to catch Cy Young votes, which there's still a chance. And this idiot said that the Guardians are going to finish top half in home runs, and we laughed at him.
Yeah.
And by God, they're going to finish top half, and we have to hear about this.
They might finish top third.
Every Tuesday and Thursday, I come down and sit in this chair, and I have to listen to this man remind me of this.
It does not bother me.
To the point where I now root against Cleveland home runs because I know I'm going to have to hear from him, hey, there goes another home run. So, of course, the first question he gets to ask you is going to be about the freaking home runs.
I'm just asking a question. I just want to know, what do you think, Jim, has led to this? Outside of, proving me right, what do you think it is?
Well, outside of that, and thank you for having faith in the team to hit home runs this year.
Yes.
When you look at, they changed their approach a little bit for certain hitters, not everybody, but certain hitters, like a Stephen Kwan, who hit one the other day. Tyler Freeman's another good example. David Fry, to some extent, too. They were so contact-oriented the last couple of years, it almost got to the point where they didn't want to strike out, so it was okay. They just wanted to put the ball in play, and you saw a lot of weak contact. And so the hitting group, led by hitting coach Chris Valleca, their focus this offseason was to ingrain it in the hitters. Take your shot when you have a chance. If you see a pitch you can drive, take it. And if you end up striking out, it's okay. If you end up being down in the count 0-1, it's okay. I thought the best line was, it's better to be 0-1 in the count than 0-for-1 in the game because you just took a swing to put the ball in play and it resulted in a ground out. So it's not easy to do that, but I think we've seen the results of that to some extent. And the other thing is you have Ramirez and Naylor having really good seasons, and that's where the bulk of your home runs are coming from. But the rest of the lineup, they're rounding it out okay. I think Fry's hit more home runs than maybe people thought he would, same with Freeman and some others. But I think there's a change in approach where it's okay to let it rip. There's certain times where you got to put it in play and you're careful and maybe cut down on your swing. But they're taking more chances early in the count to try You never hear that. Oh, if you try and hit home runs, you're going to get in trouble. Well, they are trying to at least drive the ball harder, and if it goes out, it goes out.
Jim, David Fry, discuss.
Did you guys? I might have jumped in late, but did you have him going to the All-Star game?
I think, listen, obviously we got some time here, but for me right now, maybe I'm a little biased. I would have him as the third catcher if I have to pick a position, just ahead of Wong and Ohapi. Obviously, we know Rushman and Salvador Perez are locks at catcher.
Ryan Jeffers was scorching hot. He's fallen off the cliff.
Yeah, he's gone. I mean, listen, let's face it. From an offensive standpoint, David Fry, as great as Jose's been for the last 6 weeks, as great as Naylor was in the beginning of the season, Naylor is slumping now. Ramirez was okay in the beginning of the year. Fry's been good the entire season. He's the only guy
MVP.
you could say has been good the entire season. No way did I see this coming. And so, yes, to answer your question, as of today, I would have David Fry as the third catcher in the American League.
Back to my original question. David Fry,
Discuss.
Where did this come from? How is this possible?
Well, let's start at the back end at the All-Star part. I think the challenge might be for him, and Bull, you might have framed it in a way that gets him there, because he plays so many different positions. Will that hurt him because they're not sure where to put him? But maybe the backup keeper is the way to do it. Anyway, where did it come from? There were good things happening a year ago for him in limited playing time. When he was in there, he did produce, and he was doing it in a really difficult role where he wasn't playing a whole lot. He would go some stretches without playing, and that's never easy for anybody to put up numbers. Just the way it worked out this year at the end of spring training, the way the roster was set up, it allowed for some more opportunities for him. He did the work in the wintertime, felt really confident heading into the wintertime that he had done enough good things in the major leagues a year ago that he could build on that. And he had to impress a new manager, and he did. And he has said continuously that Stephen Vogt has given me the opportunity to play a lot more than maybe I would have at the start of the season because of that fresh slate, so to speak, and all that kind of stuff. And maybe it would have been the same anyway, regardless of who the manager was. But he got that opportunity, and now they find a way to get him in there every day, no matter what the position. They'll find a spot for him to get that bat in the lineup, and that's helped.
Jim, so not only do the Guardians have this shockingly excellent hitter in David Fry, Ben Lively is, 32, 31, 32. He has never really, outside of last year, had not had much extended time in the big leagues. He didn't pitch particularly well for Cincinnati last year. When he had pitched in the past, the numbers were pretty ugly. This guy has given them a quality start, I think, every time, or maybe every time but one, I can't remember. He's been phenomenal. And I look at him, and I don't see amazing stuff. So how is he doing it?
Ben Lively, discuss.
Ben Lively, discuss.
All right, are we allowed to swear on this show?
Yes.
So I asked Carl Willis that question, and Ben kind of said the same thing. He got to a point in his career where, in terms of pitch selection, and you mentioned the stuff's not overpowering.
Yeah.
91, 92 on his fastball. But the fastball plays because he's got a little deception there, and he's not afraid to pitch inside. And Carl said he's got I don't give a beep attitude when he goes out there. He doesn't care what the hitters think. He doesn't care what people think about the radar gun. He's just going to let it rip and see what happens. And
love it.
It served him well. And he said, look, I got to pitch inside. I know, people think if you don't throw real hard, you shouldn't pitch inside. He does it, and he goes, if I hit somebody, who cares? I'll deal with that later. And so he's got kind of an attitude out there where he's just going to let it rip and see what happens and have the confidence to throw strikes. And so he's doing a lot more of that, getting ahead of the hitters, and it's working for him.
Jim, when you look at this starting pitching rotation, Do you think it's playoff caliber where it is with the guys that they have, or do you think as the trade deadline approaches that they should look into maybe getting another starting pitcher?
Absolutely, they need to do that. And point being, it was thin going into the season. Remember last year when they had injuries, they brought up Gavin Williams, Logan Allen, and Tanner Bybee. They don't have that type of prospect at the upper levels of the minor league system this year, at least not right now. Now, it looks like they're going to get Williams back in maybe a couple of more weeks, and that will help tremendously. But it is thin, and there's a long way to go. How does Carlos Carrasco hold up between now and the end of the season? Same with McKenzie, and Ben Lively was a little bit sore after his last start. So it is really thin, and yes, I'm sure they're trying. There's probably 29 other shows in major league cities talking about the same thing. We need starting pitching. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do, what they can do between now and the trade deadline to really bolster that starting rotation, because you keep your fingers crossed that everyone's going to stay healthy and be effective. But I think past history for every team in baseball is you're going to need more as you go through.
Jim, you mentioned Gavin Williams there. Jason was noting a little bit ago, and we talked about this on the Guardian show, Zach and I earlier, that Gavin Williams was not listed with Columbus as starting pitchers for this week. So my first reaction was, oh no, did he have a setback? And Zach said, well, maybe they're going to call him up this week, but they don't need a fifth starter really right now. So do you know anything about why Gavin's not listed under the Columbus starters this week?
Full disclosure, I don't. No, I think he just pitched Sunday, so I mean his next possible start would be Friday, and they do have that. Everybody has an off day on Mondays in the minor league, so they might push him back. Everything he came out of it fine, so maybe they're just waiting to slot him in to make sure it's the ideal spot for him. So that's the best I got.
And what about Ben Lively? I know he had gone back to get checked out. He's back with the team. It seems like everything's okay as far as you know.
I think so. That may be one of those deals where his normal bullpen day would have been yesterday. With the off day, there's 2 off days this week. They'll probably push that back.
Yeah.
They may not really know till he throws his pen, but I don't think he'd be back with the club if it was something serious. So with the 2 off days this week, they could skip a starter if they need to. We'll see what they do, or just give everybody an extra day and push everyone back a day.
Yeah. Jim, there was 2 names that's linked to Cleveland in a possible trade that we've been discussing: Luis Roberts Jr. or Bo Bichette. If you had to pick one to add to the Guardians to help, which one would you pick?
Whew, man. If you're looking at both at their best and healthiest, based on need, you might say shortstop, but man, Luis Robert, when he's going at his best, he is really, really good. Gold Glove Award winner. Hit a home run last night on a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. It looked like it was coming in on his hands, and bam, it was out in Seattle. The problem is, you look at Luis Robert, 1 year since he broke in 2020 has he played more than 100 games. Mm-hmm. And that's a big-time concern. You got to be available. I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, Robert, for pure athletic skill and what he's done when he's healthy, would be really, really intriguing.
Yeah. Jim, obviously we've talked a lot about pitcher trades as well. We mentioned Tyler Anderson today. Jesus Luzardo's name has come up. But I was mentioning just before that Thursday is the 30th anniversary of Rick Sutcliffe getting traded from the Indians to the Cubs in that blockbuster Joe Carter-Mel Hall deal. And we used to see a lot of blockbuster trades in June, but because there's so few teams that are out of it with all the extra wild cards, now there's really only 5 teams out of it, as opposed to those days where 2 teams made the playoffs in each league. You don't really see those blockbusters in June anymore. They all happen like the week before the deadline, it seems. You think that will continue?
and I think so, because you're right, nobody's really out of it. shoot, we're here in Cincinnati, and 10 days ago, I think people were saying, oh, man, what's going on with the Reds? They're falling out of it, and now they've hit a hot stretch, and they're in second place in the division, and I think a game or two out of the wild cards. So it changes so fast with the extra wild cards. Nobody wants to give up on a season. So you're patient and you wait, which is hard. I think for a lot of teams, they'd like to strike early if they could. But again, available pitching and everybody wants it, and it's not matching up yet. I don't know how much better the situation will get when we get to mid-July. So it'll be really, really interesting, not only to see who's available, but then what teams are willing to part with to get some starting pitching that could change the complexion of the pennant race in the postseason.
Jim, one quick one from me, and then Mike's going to give you one to wrap it up. The White Sox are, 17-50? Is that their record?
Correct. 26 and a half back.
I think the worst record of all time, I believe, was the 62 Mets, who finished 40-120. I think they didn't play 2 games for whatever reason. Do you think the White Sox have a chance to be worse than that team?
I do. And I say that even though they beat the Indians 3 out of 4 the last time they played them. It's just been a debacle of a season. And you figure, and I say that I think they could, because I think they'll unload any players of value. For instance, if they trade a Luis Robert, that is a major hole in their lineup, and a big reason why he's been hurt so much this season. That's a big reason why they've struggled like they have, because they haven't had him available. And if they trade him, obviously that happens again. And anybody of substance, I keep hearing Garrett Crochet's name come up, which is a really dynamic young starting pitcher. So there's every 5th day where they have a chance that they might not. And I know sometimes you bring up younger players and it can make a difference, but the way they're playing, it sure seems like they have a real chance at maybe breaking the major league record.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mikey.
Jim, what's it like getting a chance to witness Emmanuel Clase's greatness in person every time he comes out in the field? He's been incredible all season. He's electric as a pitcher, and you guys have obviously one of the best views in the house. So seeing him on a night-to-night basis, what makes Emmanuel Clase so special in that closer role for the Guardians?
You know what? And I don't know if fans feel the same way or you guys do, but it's almost to the point where he comes in, you don't worry about the 9th anymore. No. And that's unusual in the major leagues. Usually there's some sort of drama. There's not even been dramatic innings this year. He gave up a home run the other day, and you're like, what? Wait a minute, what happened? Now, he had a little room to work with, but it's been just incredible. And, last year he had a good year by all accounts in that he led all of Major League Baseball in saves, but he wasn't happy because he also led the league in blown saves and didn't feel it was up to his standards. And he did some things this offseason to be better. And man, has he been better. And it's been remarkable because, again, there's so many closers throughout baseball history that had good numbers save-wise, but every 9th inning was a tightrope. And it's not that way with Clase. He's not only saving games, but he has made them in the 9th inning where you don't worry about it. And that's probably the highest compliment you can pay to any closer in baseball. And he's that closer this year.
No doubt. And there's really probably only 3 or 4 guys like that in the big leagues, if that many right now. Jim, great stuff as always, man.
Yes,
good to see you.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Got it. Jim Rosenhaus does an awesome job. Great guy. And great insight on the Guardians there. And it is interesting to me that he did say, hey, they need to trade for a pitcher because,
Yeah, I agree.
like he would know.
Yeah.
And if he thought that there was no chance the Guardians were going to trade for a pitcher, I don't think he would have said that.
So they're going to be aggressive this trade deadline.
And hearing him say they need a pitcher makes me feel like they're going to be aggressive.
This, again, every year is different. Some years it's time to go for it. Other years
Yeah.
there's not. This is a go for it year. This really feels like a go for it year.
So when
100%.
they make this trade for whoever the starting pitcher is, how long will they have him on the
That's
roster?
who they get.
It depends who they get. Ideally, I think they would like 2 years of control, the rest of this year, and 1 more at least.
Is that dude from the Blue Jays that you want?
I think the Blue Jays at this point, to me, I'm taking them off
Because
the
they
trade.
still in it.
Yeah.
I mean,
think
that could change. We got a
it
long
could.
way. to the
As of
deadline.
right now, the top target to me, a pitcher, is Luzardo from the Marlins. And he's got at least 2 years left, I think. Go ahead.